Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is your United show. This is Devil's Advocate. And today I'm joined by a very, very special guest. I'm joined by Jay Motty from the Stretford Paddock podcast, formerly known as Full Time Devils. I'm absolutely delighted to have Jay here on the podcast today. I was literally just saying to him just before we went live, I've been watching Jay and all the lads on there since I was 16, 17 years old. So absolutely delighted to have Jay on here today. First of all, Jay, welcome to the podcast. Delighted to have you on. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Now it's nice to come on. I appreciate you inviting me on. Yeah, it's good to have a chat. Although you do make me feel old when you tell me that you've been watching me since you was 16, and I think I've been doing this for a little while now, haven't
I? Yeah, man, I remember back in the day, it was literally I was literally doing my exams, and I remember Full Time Devils. I remember just going across YouTube. I was after a match, and I seen yourself and Adam, Stephen all outside Old Trafford, they were talking about United, and just as mad how come full circle. How I'm doing a podcast now and I have one of yourselves on. It's absolutely crazy.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's good, and it's good to see that as well, man. You know, you like younger fans like yourself, obviously, future Manchester United. You're doing great content as well. Enjoy what you do, and it's good to see that. And you know, I think that the way things have moved along now as well since when we started first doing it. I mean, now anyone of any age can sort of get out there, can make content, whether it's at home, whether you're at the game, whatever it is. And it's great to see so many young United fans and young fans in general doing such good things as well, and sort of raising that bar and keeping us on our toes, man. You know what I mean? It's keeps us busy and keeps us sort of motivated as well when we see you guys and the good stuff that you're doing.
And you know what, as well, I think I always like to see your fans getting their opinion across, and in terms of that as well, seeing not just one narrative, there's multiple different narratives in terms of people covering United. I know when I watch your podcast on the Paddock, I see maybe sometimes yourself and Stephen mightn't agree on something, but then you debate it, and then it's you deep dive into kind of why let's say you might think some player is good, maybe Stephen might think this player isn't that good, and then you just you talk about it for about an hour and a half, and just I find it really interesting in terms of the different fans from different backgrounds all talking to each other.
Yeah, we're at an advantage as well. Obviously on our channel on Stretford Paddock, you got myself, Joe, McCullough, and Steve, and we know each other. We've known each other for years. We're mates. That's why we do this together. Do you know what I mean? And I think when you get on with someone, you're friends with someone, it's easy to argue with them. It's easier because you know them well as well, and you don't feel sort of worried or being polite or any of that stuff. So I do enjoy it when we have a debate and a good chat, and that's what it's part of the fun of making podcasts and videos and stuff. Is that bit where not just when you all agree, because we do agree on a lot on our channel. We have similar views on United, on the players that we like, on getting behind the manager and stuff like that. But there's certain things we don't agree on, and I think that always has to. Sometimes it can be a bit more entertaining seeing people arguing their case and putting forward an argument as to why their opinion is this. And what's funny about us when we argue is very rarely anyone backs down, or very rarely anyone changes their opinion. It always just you stick to your guns, and that's just the way it is, and it's kind of part of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, I love your the shows like the Brew and stuff like that, and you're chatting it's unfiltered and you can tell it's from the heart. So I really do love watching the Stretford Paddock, and obviously watching yourselves still talking about United, because obviously United is kind of our only love, really. Jay, in terms of this summer, in terms of United, there's been a lot of reports of us being linked with different players. In fact, 95 in total different players Manchester United have been linked with all summer. Erik ten Hag's obviously coming in to succeed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as permanent Manchester United manager, and he has obviously a big job in his hands trying to get Manchester United back to where we want to be in terms of being at the pinnacle of English football and winning trophies. When you see the kind of lack of activity at the moment, considering obviously it's a new board, new manager, kind of new setup, and obviously we've lost numerous players, obviously due to free transfers and stuff like that. Do you find this sense of inactivity kind of, I suppose, worrying, considering the rivals are doing a bit more business? Man City, Liverpool, and looks like even Arsenal and Tottenham now are starting to get their business done. Are you concerned by this lack of activity in the window?
At the moment, I'm not overly concerned. It's slightly worrying, but I think that we're still sort of relatively early into the window. He's not been here that long. We know that the main player that he wants is Frankie de Jong, and I think that there's certain issues around that, because Barcelona are willing to sell him, but only for a certain price. And there's a bit of negotiation going on there. But, if this continues into the next couple of weeks, then I will become worried. I will become frustrated. Like you said there, City doing their business with Erling Haaland relatively quickly is a bit different because they've been negotiating that Haaland deal for months behind the scenes. They've worked on it. They obviously knew they could get him. They knew he was willing to come. There was a buyout clause there. They were willing to pay his wages. So that was all sorted. It was just announced early in the transfer window. Darwin Núñez was slightly different, but Liverpool, because they're not going out and buying 4 or 5 players, they were expecting to get money in for like Sadio Mane. They were willing to pay the 100 million euros that Benfica wanted for Darwin Núñez. So that wasn't too difficult for them. With United, there's obviously this negotiation going on and other things. The one thing that does worry me a little bit is how Spurs have been pretty quick and busy in the transfer window. I think Conte did a good job at Spurs last season. I think that the fact they've added Yves Bissouma, even Perisic, I think they've been linked with Jed Spencer as well. The kid from Middlesbrough who's at loan at Forest, who seems like a decent fullback. It seems like they're getting their transfer business sorted with Conte as well and as manager, giving him a full pre-season with those players. I think they're going to be, very, very good bet for top 4 next season, which makes life even harder for Erik ten Hag because you think how many spaces are up for grabs. Yes, you can argue that United have a better team or a better squad than Spurs, but it's close. Chelsea are always going to be thereabouts. And I think City and Liverpool, unfortunately for me, are just a cut above us at the minute. So, yeah, I'm not panicking just yet, but it is getting to that point where I'd like to see us do something. If not by the end of this week, so I know we're running out of time, then certainly next week, try and get these players in, or at least one player in before we go away for pre-season.
Absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of like Spurs bringing players in, because what Conte done from when he took over, like, within his means of the squad he had, obviously you've Kane and Son up top, like they do a tremendous job, like they're a brilliant partnership. But the fact he got players like Ben Davies and Eric Dyer playing well, considering how they're playing under Nuno, like that showed me how much of a good coach he is. And like he brought in like Kulusevski and players like that. And now they bring in Perisic, bringing in Bissouma, Spence, and they're linked like with Richarlison now as well. When you look at that, you have to say Spurs are a massive threat. Chelsea losing all the experienced players like Rudiger, Azpilicueta, Christensen, all in the one window. Lukaku's obviously gone as well, even though, to be fair, he probably didn't contribute much last season. You like to think Chelsea probably will get a striker in. So it is tough for us at the moment, because not only is Ten Hag have to have a look at the squad that obviously finished 6th last season and we did struggle, but also he has to like get his own players in, get his own style of play implemented. And like there's a lot of players who are still in the squad now who are still going to be here next like this coming season who have struggled last year, and it's kind of up for debate, whether they can kind of get back into gear and play the way they played under Solskjaer when we did finish second. Now, a lot of people say that was a false position, but I don't. If you look at especially the second half of that season when Luke Shaw was tremendous, Harry Maguire was really good that season. Bruno Fernandes, in my opinion, at the time, you probably talk about him, he would have been like the best signing post of Alex Ferguson. Like when you look at all them different players, they all dropped off last season, and it's just it's questioning now whether they can get back to where they were. And obviously if they can, that'll boost us massively. But it's a struggle where you see I almost get kind of flashbacks to summer 2013 when obviously Moyes came in after Sir Alex. David Gill was also gone at that time. Obviously Ed Woodward left, but thank God he's gone. Obviously, we were mourning the loss of Fergie, but thank God Ed Woodward is gone. But now the fact is Richard Arnold, now John Murtaugh is a new role. Obviously Fletcher is in his new role as well. Like when you look at the current kind of setup United, it's very kind of similar to 2013 because there's so many people adapting to new roles. And again, rivals were also moving quicker that summer as well. It kind of give you them kind of concerns, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I get where you're coming from, because this is one thing I've said about the new sort of regime. And I'm not talking about Erik ten Hag, I'm talking about likes of John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold. They've made these noises that this is going to be different and we're going to get our transfer business done. We've got football people in charge of football. roles and looking after the football side of things, not bankers and people who don't know what they're doing. And you think that to prove that, you show us what you're made of in the transfer market. You get the deals done. You bring in the right players. You give the manager the support he needs. Erik ten Hag, for me, is coming into the most difficult, or is coming in as a time as the most difficult as any Manchester United manager post Fergie. I think if you look at, he's got practically no one left of the Fergie era in terms of the team that won the title. The last team that won the title of Manchester United, there's only David De Gea there. I know that obviously, and Phil Jones, sorry. I know that Ronaldo's won titles with us in the past, but the 2013 title winning team is almost completely gone now. You look at where we just finished. We finished 6th. We went on that awful run where we lost, 4 away games on the spin. We're getting battered off the likes of Brighton. We lost to the likes of Watford. It was just an awful season. You're coming into that. You're also coming into that at a time when Liverpool are flying. Just been in another Champions League final. Just won a couple of cups. City have won the 4th title in 5 years. Chelsea, a year ago were the champions of Europe. Yes, they've lost some players, but they're still a very strong team with a good manager. Spurs are strengthened. This is as hard as it's been for a Manchester United manager. So he needs the support. He needs that backing. When David Moyes came in, he wasn't backed properly. And the transfer window that you mentioned was a shambles, trying to get Ander Herrera, trying to get Sami Khedira, trying to get Fabio Contrao at 10:30 at deadline day. It was a joke. But at least you could say, okay, this is still the reigning champions. This is still a team full of quality. You've still got Wayne Rooney, Michael Carrick, Robin Van Persie, all these other players who can still do a job. When Jose came in, you still had some of that team. You still had, the strong players. Same with Van Gaal. We backed him quite well in the transfer market. And I think the worry you've got now is with all the difficulties you've got going on with Ten Hag, you've got this new regime. They're chatting a good one. They're saying, look, listen, it's going to be different. We know where we've gone wrong in the past. We're going to do it, we're going to make sure we don't make the same mistakes again. But you've got to prove that. You've got to prove it by backing this manager properly. We can't afford to go into the new season with just one signing or, our 3rd or 4th choice signings. We need to be getting the ones that the manager's earmarked as players that he needs. Now, it's obvious that Frankie de Jong is that player. He's sort of said, all the reports that you see say the same thing, that as soon as Erik ten Hag arrived at United, he said, I need Frankie de Jong. He's someone I can build the team around, build the midfield around. He's gettable. If we don't get him, then we have to get someone who can do that similar job. I don't know who that is. I presume there's other targets. From what I hear, United have a tiered system, so they'll have the first target in one position. You don't get him, they'll have a second one, and third one. But what we don't want is we don't want to go into this new season, letting the manager down. He's coming into this new job already, as I said earlier, with the most difficult task in the last sort of 9 years on his hand, and he hasn't been given the players that he wanted. It'd be very disappointing, especially when you look at the amount of players that have gone out the door. Whether you like Paul Pogba or not, he's still a midfielder that played a lot of games for Manchester United. He's left. Nemanja Matic was our only out-and-out DM. He's left. Juan Mata, bags of experience, player who's won the lot. He's gone out the door as well. So is Edinson Cavani. Okay, he didn't exactly do a lot last season, but he's one of the best goal scorers or top goal scorers in the last decade. You've lost all that experience, all those players. You cannot go into this new season with a squad that's not been added to by at least 3 players, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at Matic and Mata and Pogba, like as you mentioned, 3 very experienced players who have been the United dressing room for quite some time and all have won trophies at the football club. So I think, obviously that experience is invaluable. You do need that at the club. And I think if you look at, especially Pogba's position at the minute, we lack probably a top-class box-to-box midfielder. Obviously, we have Bruno there, but Bruno's probably better as a number 10. And you'd like to think in Ten Hag's 4-2-3-1 that Bruno will probably be playing there himself. And then you also look at that defensive midfield position. Obviously, we've been. I suppose you look at the last 2 seasons, we've had McTominay and Fred playing there in the last couple of years. Now, to be fair, they've always put in a shift. They've always tried their best. And look, to be fair, you can't fault them for that. But if you look at the rest of the midfields that we come up against, especially in the top 6, top 8 even, it pales in comparison to what the other teams have in their midfield at the minute. So I think we have to definitely strengthen the midfield. I think that needs massive restructuring. Now, Donny van de Beek is coming back. He's had a tough time at the club. Didn't have the best of loan spells ever, and either obviously in and out of the team due to injury and other issues with Lampard's team. So you look at the midfield this summer, I think it's definitely probably the most important place we need to strengthen this season. Because if Erik ten Hag, for example, Like he does have though a very strong like possession-based style of football that he wants to play in the front foot. He wants to win the ball back quickly. At the minute, like if you look at outside of maybe Tommy and Fred in terms of like players who work hard in midfield, Bruno works hard as well, but he's better like off the striker. We're really lacking in that area. And if we go into midfield, like into the next season with like Fred, McTominay, Andres Pereira, Garner, Bruno Fernandes, Van de Beek, like that's worrying, especially even not even in the Premier League, but even in the Europa League with that list of midfielders. I could massively see us struggling next season under Ten Hag. I know he's a brilliant coach by all means, but you need to have the personnel in there. I think when you look how easily teams have played through us last season, it's massively concerning.
No, 100% agree. It's not like you say, he's a brilliant coach, but you can't make a gourmet meal with a tin of beans and a loaf of bread. He needs the tools, he needs the players that can help him get to where Manchester United needs to be. He's not a miracle worker. And like you said, you've lost that quality midfield, you've lost that experience. The midfield was crying out for someone before last season. We needed someone else in there. I think most United fans I spoke to, and myself included, felt like we needed an out-and-out defensive midfielder to come in. We needed someone who could get hold of the ball. Maybe, an 8 might have done it, but really I think we needed a 6. To not get that this season again, I think would be criminal. It really would. And this is what I don't want. I don't want Erik ten Hag to get off to a bad start because he hasn't been back properly. Because then you're going to get the odd fan who, well, not the odd fan, you get quite a few fans who start questioning him and going, well, he's the right man for the job. And that's not fair. I think we've got to make life as easy as we can for Erik ten Hag. Now, it's not panic stations yet, like I said to you, a little while ago. There's still plenty of time left in this transfer window. We've got money to spend. There's money coming in as well if we get rid of a couple of players. There's a couple of players being linked with a move away this summer. But we have to make sure we get the right players in, because what you don't want is a situation where you're relying on, as you mentioned there, you're relying on certain players, certain midfielders who maybe aren't good enough. You are overly reliant on them. There's too many question marks around certain players. Some might end up being all right. Some might do a job. Maybe Donny van de Beek comes into the team and shines under Erik ten Hag. Maybe Scott McTominay has a much better season this season than the one he's just had. There's lots of ifs and buts and maybes, but I think you still need that almost guarantee, a midfielder you can bring in and will do a job for you, because we've had a big sort of almost like a Michael Carrick-shaped hole in that midfield for too long now. Yeah. We tried to get Matic to do it. He did okay. Probably got him a little bit too late, if being brutally honest. We tried playing with Ander Herrera in that role. He's a bit more box-to-box. You've tried playing the McFred combination. Neither of those two are defensive midfielders. That's why you have to play them both in that role, because one of them can't do it on his own. And I think you just need someone who can just sit in front of that defense and get hold of the ball. Now, those players don't grow on trees. There are players out there, though. We didn't go in for Basuma for a reason, because we think we can get better than that, because otherwise, why wouldn't we have gone in for him? I presume that's the reason anyway. And I kind of get that. I don't think he's as, all he's cracked up to be. But you need someone. You need someone in there. You can't go into this next season just relying on the idea that previous players who've had poor seasons, or players, that's had previous poor seasons, are going to step up, that Erik ten Hag is going to be able to sort of work his magic and get a tune out of all these players. You need some strengthening. And you're right, the midfield area is key. It's been criminal the way we've underinvested in our midfield. James Garner comes back from Forest, he's loan, he's done really well there, but he's not 6. He's not. That's not his game. And I think you need someone who can just get hold of that ball. If you can get hold of someone with that quality, get hold of that ball in front of the defence, protect them and get hold of the ball, I think that could make a big difference. But there's other areas as well. Let's not just pretend it's the midfield that's the only issue at Manchester United. I wish it was. Ronaldo's 37. He turns 38 in February. Can we rely on him as the only out-and-out striker? Full-back position. There's been all sorts of issues going on there. You look at the likes of Delo, Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw, Alex Telles. I think all of those have had below par seasons. I do. A season that wasn't great. All 4 of them. They've been rotated for a reason, not just good injuries, because none of them have really stepped up. And can you rely on them? Maybe you can. Maybe you need to bring in someone else. Maybe you look at one of the youngsters on here that Brandon Williams has been told he can already move on. Maybe Ethan Laird or someone comes in. But yeah, there's a lot of difficulties that Erik ten Hag faces. But I think if you can get a midfielder in, it's going to give us a little bit of a boost. And we need that, because as it stands, Manchester United at the minute are a lot weaker now than we were at the end of the season. And that's saying something, because we were poor at the end of the season.
Yeah, like when we look at the squad list right now, currently, it is one of them where you look and say we aren't like technically probably a worse position. Like you mentioned the fullbacks, I think it's interesting because I think if you look at the way Ten Hag sets up, I think out of all four of them who've underperformed, I think Luke Shaw will probably suit that setup the most because how Ten Hag likes his left back to tuck in and the right back to bomb on. So I think Luke Shaw, because he has done well in that kind of role for Solskjaer, I think he might be okay there. It'd be interesting, as I said, you mentioned Ethan Laird, like he's very good offensively and defensively. Now I know he's had his injury problems between Bournemouth and Swansea when he was on loan, but he's a very good young player. We've Alvaro Fernandes as well from the 23s. Like, does he get a chance? Like, let's say if we don't get like another left back, can Fernandes still make the step up? Like that's also something that's quite possible. We don't know. But like I think the fullback position, it's a strange one because Shaw's played fantastically well. Wan-Bissaka in his first season was brilliant as well. Like, he was very good defensively, and not many players would dribble past him. But like Ten Hag's already made it clear that he can move on, which suggests to me that he doesn't have confidence in his ability with the ball. But yeah, it's strange because like if you look at the window with all the players we've actually been linked to, Jay, we haven't been linked to I know we've been linked to the recent left back from Firewood. I know we've been linked to him. But we haven't been linked up many other fullbacks, which suggests to me he's probably going to have a look at them in pre-season and maybe evaluate then if he can trust them or not.
Yeah, this is the thing, and I think it's not just the fullbacks, and there's quite a few positions that he might look at and go, "I'll give you a pre-season, I'll give you a run out, show them what you made of." Because you've got Eric Ten Hag might come in, he might be a little bit like, "What is going on with some of these players?" Because look at the age of them; they're not old. These players should be in their prime. You're talking about players that are what 24, 25, 26.
Yeah.
So you look, you go, okay, these players who've got Manchester United to second in the league 2 seasons ago, got them to third in the league the season before that. They've got to the Europa League final. They've got to semi-finals. They're now at an age where you'd expect them to be better than they were then. Why are they not playing well? Why are they not performing? Is it the system? Is it the manager? What is going on? Let me have a look at them. So there might be a bit of that. You might say, okay, give me a pre-season. Let's not forget, in pre-season, we've got the Tour of Australia, we've got the game in Thailand against Liverpool. We've also got the game in Norway, and we've got the game at Old Trafford as well. We will also have lots of games at training ground, behind closed doors games that you don't hear about. They do that quite a lot at Manchester United. So there'll be those games as well where you can look at, sometimes you play another Premier League team or a Championship team or whatever, and the intensity levels are quite good, so you can get a decent sort of assessment of where someone's at. It's not just a kickabout, it's a decent game. So you might want to look at them and go, okay, let me see what Diogo Dalot is about. Let me see if Luke Shaw is this Shawberto Carlos character that everyone said he was when he was tearing it up in the Euros. Let's have a little look at him. Let's see, like you said, Ethan Laird, good young player. Has he got the physicality in terms of his injuries and stuff? Can he hold up in the Premier League? Can he mix it up? Is he there yet? Is he ready? I wouldn't be so surprised at that. And that might give him a little bit of breathing space. If he is only focusing on, say, he's bringing in a midfielder and a centre-back and an attacking player, then he can look at the fullbacks and go, all right, I'll give you a few weeks. And then if I have to sort of, not a panic buy, but I have to bring someone in a bit later on, just before the window closes, then I'll do it. But I just think from watching United last season, I'm really worried about the fullback position because I think all those fullbacks have been flawed. And I think there's a real danger that, the way you said, the way that Eric Ten Hag likes to play with the fullbacks playing such an important role, the wing-backs playing such an important role. If they put in performances like they did last season, it's going to massively undermine his chances of having any success next season at Manchester United.
Yeah, and I think as well, what he likes his fullbacks to be as well is versatile as well. Like you often see with Daily Blind, like maybe sometimes Blind and maybe drift in, they'll come in centrally into midfield and get involved in the play. But consequently, what that does is if a team catches you in a quick transition, you're caught in the counter. So I think like that's where Ten Hag maybe needs the first 2-3 games, of the preseason to maybe assess if they have the capabilities to play the system. Maybe he's that type of manager who maybe gives everyone a clean slate and a chance. But then like we have seen him be ruthless at Ajax as well with certain players. And he has rejuvenated other players as well. Like you've seen what he done with Dusan Tadic, for example, was struggling with Southampton, went to Ajax, and like we seen in that Champions League campaign what Tadic did, and when Ajax did get to the semi-final. So we have seen him rejuvenate players as well. So like, hope United aren't just hanging their hat on that, seeing his body of work that he's rejuvenated a couple of players and thinking, right, maybe he can do that here, when we've seen like maybe certain players have struggled for more than 12 months. And I think that's a concern, but hopefully he can get, certain players, working better again, like even Marcus Rashford. Like, he's a player who we've seen before last season, we always seen continuous improvement. We've seen his numbers improve every season, whether he's on the left or up front. Like, his numbers improved. Last season, they stagnated. Obviously, he had a situation at the Euros. He had surgery. He had all different little things. Like, I'm hoping Marcus, maybe like Ten Hag can maybe rejuvenate him and get him back to his best. Because I think he's a player. We're talking about depth, and up front, we probably, like, if you look at the wing positions next season, we have a decent bit of depth at the moment with the current squad. Like, you have Rashford, you have Sancho, so you have Garnacho as well coming up. I think he's probably too good to be playing with the under-23s at the minute. Like, he's getting a new contract. Hannibal Mejbri's coming up. Ten Hag has worked with young players before. Like, in that regard, if he can get them playing well, like, that would be massively good for us going forward, especially like when we have our history and tradition of playing young players. It'd be great to see him getting them up and running.
Yeah, definitely. This is the thing, because the sort of difficulty with Ten Hag, or the balance he has to find, is you want him to be able to get the best out of these young players. You want him to use these young players. He's got a reputation for doing that, like you've mentioned there. He did it at Ajax superbly, bringing through some young players, the likes of De Jong, likes of Van der Beek, and getting a tune out of him, rejuvenating the career of likes of Dusan Tadic. I want to see him do all those things, but I don't want to just be relying on that. I don't want to just be relying on this manager to go, well, you've got Garnacho, you've got Jimmy Garner, Marcus Rashford was banging in 20 goals a season 2 seasons ago. So was Anthony Martial. Get a tune out of them. He needs to be backed as well. So yes, I'm hoping that he can do what he's done very well as Ajax manager, and coach players and get a system that they fit and get the best out of them and nurture young players. That's what Manchester United have always been about, getting those young players in and getting them performing in the first team. And we've certainly got some fantastically talented youngsters at the club, but he also needs to have that backing as well. I don't want to keep going on about it, but I know you agree from what you've said, but he cannot just be relied upon to work with what he's got. You have to bring in quality. That squad, the squad we've got as it stands right now, even with some of these very talented youngsters we've got, is not ready, in my opinion, to challenge at the very top. You need reinforcements. You need players coming in. He also needs someone who can fit into that system in midfield, like you said, a midfielder who can do that. He might need another striker to do that. If Cristiano Ronaldo gets injured, or if he needs a breather, who's playing up front for Manchester United? Marcus Rashford down the middle, Anthony Martial, who scored 5 goals in 2 seasons. Can you rely on him or these players? Anthony Elanga, who didn't score. I think he didn't score for his last 14 games for the club. You need some reinforcements, man. You need quality. It's going to be so difficult for Erik ten Hag next season. I don't want to come on your podcast and be negative, but you have to be realistic.
Yeah.
You have to be. Because if I would love to come on here and say 21 is coming, United are going to smash it, Erik ten Hag is going to, take us to glory. I would love to say that, but I just don't believe it, because I don't think any manager in the world, I don't think a prime Sir Alex Ferguson could take this squad as it stands and win a title with it. He needs at least 2 or 3 players, probably more for a title challenge, but at least to get us moving in the right direction, we need at least 3 players this summer. So hopefully he can get them. It's not going to be easy, because most top players now cost you upwards of 60, 70 million. That's the price we're looking at for Frankie de Jong. He has got, I think, around 120, 130 million. Maybe he can up that to 150 if we sell a couple of players. But he's going to have to sort of work hard for his money, Erik ten Hag. And that's going to be the big battle this transfer window, is seeing who we can bring in, how we can do those things you mentioned, nurture the youngsters, get the best out of some of the other players, and hopefully get this club moving forward. Because, listen, me and you were sat here and I've spoke to you a few times, and I know you're a pretty balanced guy who knows his stuff and who gets the job in hand and will be like, you know what, I'll get behind Ten Hag, I'll give him time, I'll give him a bit of patience. But there will be fans that will start questioning him if he gets off to a stinker. We've got Liverpool the second home game in the season. If we get battered off Liverpool, that's the second home game of the season. People will be looking at it going, is this guy caught all he's cracked up to be? He's got to be backed in the proper way so that he can do those things that he was brought in to do, play the football that he was brought in to play, and get the best out of the players that he's got.
definitely, and I absolutely agree. And I think it's when you look at the way that he builds his teams, if he can get a significant back in this summer, we can see like if we can get back into the top four, or even like let's say if we finish fifth, like what you could see, a good style of play, you could see progression, and we won the Europa League, like that would be unbelievable. Like we're back into the Champions League, though there's a style of play there. We can see the idea, and then you can get behind them then and give them continuous back, and in the next summer. I think like that's where he needs to do. I think he needs to get Champions League back. I think that's something that needs to be done. And if he can do that playing, the right way, that would be fantastic. Jay, we talked about rejuvenation. We mentioned Bruno Fernandes earlier in terms of like being one of the best signings post Sir Alex. Like in them first 2 seasons, the numbers he was pulling up, the goals, assists, everything was freakish. The last 12 months, however, he's kind of stagnated. His body language seems to kind of has dipped. He's a shadow of what he was previously. Now, I believe there's talent there in abundance, and I think he can get back to his best. A lot of people are saying that he won't suit Ten Hag's like possession-based style of football. But we've seen Bruno playing in a system in Sporting Lisbon. He's done it before. Do you think like Bruno can maybe coexist with a Donny van de Beek in midfield, with a Frankie de Jong? Like, do you think Bruno can maybe get some of that rashness out of his game next season under Eric Ten Hag? Can he rejuvenate his form?
Yeah, most definitely. I think Bruno Fernandes is a quality player. And I think quality players can play in almost any system alongside anyone. Now, I think part of the problem with Bruno Fernandes is when we struggle, when we're up against it, he tries to do everything. He's shooting from 30 yards out. He's trying to play 90-yard passes. He's trying to put a tackle in. He's running 80 yards, chasing down lost causes. He's doing all these things. He's getting in the ref's ear. He's kicking off with everyone. He's scrapping with the opposition. It's almost like he loses his mind a little bit and he needs reining in. And it's that energy that sometimes, if harnessed in the right way, can be great. It can be positive and it can help you. But when it's not in the right way, it just becomes completely erratic. Now, when you're in a team like he was, at Manchester United last season, where you go into places like Vicarage Road and Watford are battering you, you go to King Power and Leicester are battering you, you go to Brighton and go to the Amex and Brighton are battering you. It's difficult. And when you're a player like Bruno, you try to do this, you try to do that, you're losing your head. I think if he's in a team, as he was a couple of seasons ago, where things are a little bit more on an even keel, it's a little bit more calmer, we've got more of the ball, more players want to get hold of the ball, more players want to do things with it, then it's easier for you as a player like Bruno Fernandes to not have to try and do anything. And I think that having a new manager will make all the difference, because under Ralph Rangnick, everything went wrong for almost everyone. I don't even think there was a success story under Ralph Rangnick. Cristiano Ronaldo did what we all knew he'd do. Other than that, who shone? Who was a player that maybe Fred, you could argue, sort of did better than expected? Rashford fell off a cliff. Bruno fell off a bit of a cliff for a 3-month spell. Defensively, we were terrible. Absolutely terrible. David De Gea did okay, but it wasn't great. And I think that a new manager coming in who's here for the long term, someone who does like to play football the right way, someone who has had success in the past as well. Because let's not forget, Ralph Rangnick came in, he won one trophy in 40 years of football management or something stupid. Then that should suit Bruno Fernandes, because this is a player whose sort of impact on the Manchester United team was ridiculous. When he came into this United team, I've rarely seen anything like that. Certainly not post Sir Alex Ferguson. He came in, we'd just been beaten 2-0 off Burnley. We were 6 points off top four. We finished third, and his rate of goals and assists was 1 a game. He was getting you either a goal or an assist every single game for a spell. In a team that was doing bang average. It was like, what is going on here? We know what Bruno's capable of. We've seen him do it. There is a great player there. He needs to play in the right system. He needs a manager who knows how to use him. I don't think that was Ralph Rangnick. I don't think anyone was sort of shining under Ralph Rangnick. No, it's not all his fault. The players have to take some responsibility. But I think, in answer to your question, a player with the talent of Bruno Fernandes under a manager like Eric Ten Hag can thrive.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you look at, like, I think with Ralph as well, if you look at the system Ralph played, he almost had Bruno playing way too deep. Like, that's not where Bruno thrives. He thrives either kind of in the latter half, of the pitch. You see him, getting on the ball, influencing the game. Like, I think, again, Bruno's problem maybe last year, again, was maybe down to the fact that, we didn't have that defensive midfield player. As he said, he was running back to 70, 80 yards, to win the ball. when like the players who were behind him weren't winning it. So he almost had to drop back and tuck in and try help us defensively. Now I know people will say like midfielders should be doing that anyway, but like a number 10's main job is to get on the ball and to influence the game and get almost like those Scholes and Lampard did. Obviously Scholes earlier in his career when he did play further forward. In terms of getting on the ball, arriving late into the box, and making an impact, whether it's with a goal or assist. And I think if you look at Bruno last year, his role was slightly altered. People said it was down to Cristiano playing. I disagree, because if you look at Bruno's like assists for Cristiano last year, they can definitely play together. I watched Bruno play against Ireland a couple of months ago, and Ronaldo's up top, and they linked up and they done fantastically well. Like, I look at Fernandes, I think he has too much talent to not succeed. And I think as well, like, if you get a player like Frankie de Jong in there who can almost like play maybe a Michael Carrick role in terms of playing between the lines and getting the ball into Bruno quickly, then Bruno can get to a push up forward, and he can influence the game, can create chances. And like we've seen even on that left channel in 2021, when like Shaw, Rashford, Bruno would almost like triangulate their play, and they would heavily influence the game. Like, I think we just need to be playing more cohesive as a team, and you will see the best Bruno Fernandes. Like, I think under Ralph Rangnick, we were anything but cohesive. I think the way bit of cohesiveness we see now of Ralph's United side was a half an hour against Crystal Palace. Then after that, then like we were sold this gang pressing, and we were sold like we'd be a hard working team. I thought we were worse under Ralph than we were under the late time of Solskjaer, like in terms of Solskjaer's couple of months. Like, it didn't resemble anything. Now, there was a lot of supposed unhappiness in the camp, unhappiness with the training. Now, I don't like, there's multiple different stories going around. I don't know whether was it the players, was the coaching too basic? I don't know. You mentioned like one trophy in 40 years of football. Like, like there's different elements why these players could have been playing poorly. And I think definitely, especially in Bruno's case, he really didn't thrive in that system. And hopefully next season, like if Ten Hag goes back to what he did with Ajax in the last couple of seasons in terms of playing 4-2-3-1, and you have Joe Bruno as the number 10, your focal point, I do think you'll see a great Bruno Fernandes again. And there's, once you see a great Bruno Fernandes, then look, we always have a chance in succeeding. Just final one, Jay, for you, just before we wrap up. In terms of next season, let's say if we were to get, let's say Frankie de Jong and a couple of others, let's say 4 players next season. In terms of like Ten Hag to make significant progress, what would you consider progress for this upcoming season?
It's a great question. We just done a debate about that, funnily enough, on the channel. Listen, everyone's different. I just think, there's all sorts of levels of progress. If you see that we're playing better football, that we're winning more football matches, that's the obvious sign of progress. I think winning a trophy would be the most, the best bit of progress we could see. It's been 5 long years since we last won something. If you can come in and win us a trophy, that'd be fantastic. But I think, in all honesty, after the season we've just had, if you can see there's progression there, if you can see players are getting back to the best, you can see there's a style. What was the style of the Ragnick? You hit the nail on the head. Against Crystal Palace, you thought that's going to be our style. Bit of Gengen pressing. It lasted 40 minutes, and that was the end of that. If Eric Ten Hag can come in, it shows a real style, improve results, and get a bit of a buzz around, almost something where you're feeling a bit more positive. There was a spell under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for a certain period, and people also get that, where it felt great being a United fan. We were right near the top of the table. We were in a bit of a title challenge up until sort of January or whatever. And you thought, right, this is great. This feels like United of old. And then obviously it didn't pan out that way. But if you can get a bit of the buzz going again, showing that Manchester United are a club that are going places and a team that can get results against anyone, then that'll be progress for me, because the last few months have just been awful. And I'm not going to blame all on Ralph Rangnick, because these players have to take some responsibility. Yeah. But I do feel like he was a bit of a strange appointment, and it didn't work out. But this one is an appointment that makes a lot more sense. And now it's up to the players to step up and show that they deserve to be at Manchester United. They know what it means to be at Manchester United, and they're good enough to be at Manchester United, because at the last sort of 6 months or so, we've only seen maybe Ronaldo and 1 or 2 others who've actually done that, and that's just not acceptable as a Manchester United fan. People might not like to hear this, and some people might disagree, but as United fans, we deserve better. We do. United fans get a lot of stick. You look at the amount of the crowd that you get at Old Trafford, you look at the amount of fans you've got around the world, and it doesn't matter whether you go to the game or not, you've got fans that get up at daft o'clock in the morning to watch the game. You've got fans that are always getting behind the team, fans that have, spending money on a difficult period for everyone to try and watch their football club. And to just see some of the performances we've seen over the last sort of 6 months, completely unacceptable as a Manchester United fan. And I think we need to see better, and hopefully we'll see it better under Erik ten Hag and see a bit of progress. And the biggest sign of progress is winning football matches.
Definitely. I think winning more games, obviously, in last season is definitely a sign of progress. And again, I think getting back into the Champions League will be a massive, element of that. Whether it's via, I know people criticize Europa League, but I look at it this way. There's a lot of fun away days in the Europa League in the group stage. There's a lot of fun away days in general in the Europa League. Also, it's one of the only trophies Cristiano hasn't won. Now, I know Ronaldo doesn't want to be playing in the Europa League, but it's one of the only trophies Ronaldo hasn't won, and it could definitely help to complete the collection in that respect as well.
I'd snap your hand off right now if you offered me a Europa League trophy. You win a trophy, you got guaranteed Champions League football, some great away days along the way. If you're in it, win it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was going to touch on Sean's comment here quickly just before we wrap up as well. He's a Chelsea fan here on the channel. And he says, can see United's football improving a lot with Frankie de Jong alone. Finally, a midfielder not afraid to show for the ball and take responsibility.
Great comment, nice. Astute comment as well. I think we've had too many players that chat a good in and talk the good talk, but don't do enough on the football pitch. I want to see players that want the ball. If you play for Manchester United, you should be demanding that ball. You should be trying to get hold of that ball. And if Frankie de Jong can do that, then we'll be halfway there.
Yeah, and he's definitely someone who will massively improve us. And again, it's probably I know down the years we've gone for the big name signing, and we've gone for that big name signing under Woodward, but this is finally a one that I think a big name signing that's not only a big game and a shirt seller, but actually for once someone who's bought to go with the manager's idea, and also help with the system. So I think he would be a great start in hopefully a good rebuild for Erik ten Hag. But Jay, we're going to wrap it up there for today. And thanks very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Never thought when I started this podcast I'd have you on. So I'm absolutely delighted to have you on here today.
No, listen, Keane, it's been a pleasure. You speak a lot of sense. Always great chatting to you. And, hopefully, we can have a chat again in the future and see where we're up to with Erik ten Hag. We said what would progress be? Let's have a chat again in a few months' time and see whether he is doing that, showing us that progress. Either on Come On Paddock or back on air.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely love to catch up again and definitely see kind of where we are following this chat. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching as well. Do smash and like the video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification just below Jay there, and also check out Stretford Paddock podcast as well. Brilliant stuff they do over there. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you all have a great evening.